Weather, rain moving across central and northern areas of England into Scotland tonight. Dry and clear across the south, a low of 11. Tomorrow, a mix of sunshine and showers for most and a high of 24 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Josh Coop.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. Cross Question with Iain Dale.
Oh dear, a lot of people complaining I was very rude to the woman from Privacy International. Hey-ho. It's 3 minutes past 8. Welcome to Cross Question. It's our weekly political panel debate show. Let me introduce our panellists to you. Simon Heffer, Telegraph columnist and historian. Liz Kershaw, renowned broadcaster. Lauren Booth, broadcaster and activist. Also renowned, I should say. And Alex McGovern is a member of the Youth Parliament. Now, you may wonder why we have a member of the Youth Parliament on our panel. Well, he was so good when he called in with a question last week, we thought we'd invite him to be on the panel. So that's the build-up, Alex, so don't let me down.
I won't.
Excellent. Now, if you'd like to watch us, you can do so on our LBC Facebook page, on the website at lbc.co.uk, or on the LBC Twitter feed at LBC.
0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850. Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC.
And if you'd like to put a question to our panel, the number to call 0345 6060 973. That's what Barry in Croydon has done. Let's get the first question from you, Barry.
Was the ambassador right to resign?
Talking about Sir Kim Darroch. Simon Heffer.
Well, Kim Darroch, who I know a little bit, is a very honourable man, and I think he realised that following the putative Prime Minister's disowning of him last night by refusing to back him during the debate.
It's a slight exaggeration.
Well, it's not, actually. He was clearly asked, will Kim Darroch survive in his job if you become Prime Minister? And he cowardly refused to answer the question. Jeremy Hunt was absolutely explicit, and he said, yes, he will. So, I mean, Sir Kim Darroch is an immensely honourable man. He's been a tremendous public servant. And he has behaved with a dignity that I think the politicians who have put him in this position would fail in a million years to muster.
He's only been put in this position because someone leaked the memos. It's that person, surely, you should be holding accountable.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know who did leak the memo, and I'm sure the Foreign Office are on the case at the moment, and I hope that they've got GCHQ going through everybody's telephone and finding out where this came from, because this stinks to high heaven. It's really abominable.
Do you think that had Boris Johnson not said what he said last night, that Sir Kim would have gone anyway?
No, I think that with the Prime Minister having said that she wanted him to stay, and she's only in the job for another fortnight, but with her saying that she wanted him to stay until he was going to retire at Christmas, with Jeremy Hunt very clearly saying that it wasn't going to happen, the fact that the person who is the favourite to become Prime Minister didn't have the guts to say one way or the other what he was going to do with him, I think made his position absolutely untenable. And as I said, Kim Darroch is a very honourable man in the highest traditions of our civil service. And it's a job of politicians to defend those sort of people. He was only doing his job. It would have been far more bizarre if he'd written about Donald Trump that he was a great man. I mean, all he did was effectively, if he'd been our man in the Vatican, it was like writing that the Pope was Catholic. For this to be leaked, no ambassador can do his job if they're private diplomatic telegrams to a very small number of people in London are going to be leaked like this. And it's a disgraceful thing that's happened, and it stinks to high heaven.
Lauren Booth.
So I think it's very interesting that the Make Britain Great Again candidate, Boris Johnson, is all about making Britain great unless America has something to say about it. And I'm with Simon. Where is the defence of people
I
who?
Could bring the two of you together
believe
so
me,
quickly.
but on sensible points, people can come together. And this is a clear betrayal of the diplomatic service. There is no loyalty there. Boris Johnson has pledged his allegiance not to the people and not to our civil service, but to Donald Trump and the power base over there. And I think that is a great betrayal of the British people before he's even got in.
Did he?
What do you? Well, we'll come to you in a second, Liz. What do you make of the fact that this story was written by Isabel Oakeshott in the Mail on Sunday, who does not work for the Mail on Sunday? Clearly, she was a recipient of the leak. She's known to be close to Aaron Banks, to Nigel Farage. Should we draw any conclusions from that?
You know what? As a non-Tory voter, I'm so out of this election anyway. As a British member of the public, I'm out of this election. We know that there appears to be a nasty cabal about to take over Downing Street without any democratic say from the public, and it's a horrible situation to be in.
Well, we might come on to that situation a little bit later. Liz Kershaw.
Well, sorry to be a pedant, Simon, but I did watch the debate last night and I don't actually remember Boris Johnson being asked, what are you going to do with him? He might have been asked what should happen to him, but he wasn't asked what are you going to do with him. At the moment, it's not really in Boris's gift what happens to the ambassador to the United States. It's in it's the decision of the present Prime Minister and the present Foreign Secretary. Yeah, well, he didn't give an answer, but neither did he undermine him. The person that's undermined the US ambassador is the leaker, and I've seen a couple of previous incumbents in that role today, so Christopher Meyer and Lord Merrick, saying it's not the fault.
Lord Rennick.
Yep. It was an anagram. Saying it's not the ambassador's fault, it's not Donald Trump's fault, it's not Boris Johnson's fault, it's the fault of the person that leaked it, that this has hit the fan.
Do you think, though, that he would have had to go anyway? As somebody says on Twitter here, Simon Cahoon, he says, please ask your guest what use an ambassador is to the government if the country that he's in refuses to deal with him.
I was watching last night and I just thought, if it were me, I would resign, because you can't work where you're not wanted. You can't do a job effectively if it's so uncomfortable and you're so unwelcome for one reason or another. I mean, I'm sure he's not the first person in that role that's written missives back to London that have been very, very critical and would have been badly received by the President of the United States. So Christopher Meyer, he wrote about George W. Bush from Camp David when he was having meetings with Blair, and we had Lord Anagram talking about how, what he wrote about Bill Clinton. It's not the fact of what's been written, it's the fact that it's gone public. And on the subject of who's responsible, it really got my goat last night when immediately it was them Brexiteers what done it. I can't see the motive, because I'm a Poirot fan. You've got to have motive, means and opportunity.
Alex McGovern, let's come to you on this. Should we not also be blaming the President of the United States? Because if he hadn't tweeted in the way that he did, none of this would probably be happening.
Yeah, I think this is quite a contentious issue. I completely agree with Simon's text. I think he got it spot on. What value do ambassadors have if they can't provide their own candid, accurate analysis of what's going on? And all ambassadors do it. And I think that the Prime Minister's response in backing our man in Washington, Sir Kim Dak, was the right thing to do. I think she needs to send a message to all ambassadors that they should be able to say, unvarnished and their frank opinions and advice without having to censor themselves in fear of this being shared around, and the notoriously thin-skinned Donald Trump, his reaction. I think it's quite interesting what you said about the journalist who broke this story. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, with the close links with Aaron Banks, that this was a complete political stitch-up. I think the Brexiteers may have wanted to kind of have a harsher political...
It's a bit of a difficult stretch, that, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, are we really saying that somebody was trying to oust a British ambassador to get a more amenable ambassador to Donald Trump in just when the new Prime Minister comes in? Is that really, Simon?
Well,
that would be the stuff of novels.
I don't want to speak Latin this early in the evening, but the old phrase "cui bono," whom does this benefit, comes out.
Well, who does it benefit then?
Well, I think it might well benefit Boris Johnson if he becomes Prime Minister. I mean,
How?
Well, I too am a Brexiteer. So I'm not saying this because I'm some sort of rabid Remainer who's got post-referendum derangement
And not all
syndrome.
Remainers are rabid.
No, I'm not saying they are.
Other
but
options
I was
are
saying
available.
that if I were a Remainer, I might be. But it's obviously helpful for Johnson if he becomes Prime Minister, as it seems likely he will, that he can now have someone completely of his own mind on political issues, such as that mind is, appointed to Washington without delay. What really worries me about this is Kim Darroch's being forced to resign because Johnson cut him adrift last night, and he did cut him adrift in that debate. I watched it too. It means that we have conceded the point. Johnson has conceded the point already that the President of the United States will be allowed to decide who is or isn't his ambassador. And that's...
Well, again, he didn't concede that in the debate at all.
No, but he's done it de facto, Ian.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Hunt last night saying Kim Darroch will serve until he retires, which is exactly what Jeremy Hunt said last night, was what Johnson should have said. Or he should have said, I'm going to sack him the day I become Prime Minister.
Well, it's all right for Hunt. You've got absolutely no chance of becoming Prime Minister. You can promise anything you like, can't you?
Well, that's always a bit of a weak political argument, I think, because they may not win. They can say what they like. He's still putting his neck on the line. So when you make statements like that, they can come back and bite you. So you do have to say things that you believe in. So.
Alex, let me ask you a question on this. There are rumours today that Theresa May might herself appoint Sir Kim Darroch's replacement and prevent Boris Johnson from having the pleasure of doing that. Do you think that's what she ought to do?
I think it doesn't really matter whoever picks the next ambassador. I think really it should be the job of the next Prime Minister and not the outgoing one. All the young people I've spoken to as a member of Youth Parliament have said they have absolutely no trust in politicians. I've not met one young person who says they trust a politician, and I think Jeremy Hunt
That's why we haven't got any on tonight.
Exactly. And I think Jeremy Hunt last night, his clear stance was so critical because Boris Johnson wants to have his cake and eat it. He doesn't want to say where he stands because he knows he'll have to stand to that, just about when he said would he resign or not on October the 31st. I think we need far more honesty in politics, and we can't allow these ambassadors to be, dictated to by their foreign nations. They are the UK ambassadors, and we need to look after them.
Let's go back to our caller, Barry. What do you make of what you've heard, Barry?
I agree with quite a lot of the comments. I would like to ask, really, for those who may know more about this than I do, what do we think of the chances of GCHQ finding the culprit who leaked this email?
Pretty high, I would have thought. Because they can get into... Look, GCHQ can get into anybody's telephone, anybody's email that they want. And that's not to say we live in a surveillance state, but when something as grave as this happens, and it is grave, it is countermanded and undermined the most important diplomatic relationship we have.
So what would they do? They'd go into the phones of all the people that received this missive from, or these missives from Kim Darroch, which could be a large number of people, or they would try and get into Isabel Oakeshot's phone, I suppose.
If I were Miss Oakeshott, I'd be very interested to know what's happening to my phone at the moment. Also, to be fair to her, and I have no brief for her, to be fair to her, she's issued proceedings, I think, today against people who've accused her of getting this from Aaron Banks or Nigel Farage.
Oh, steady on then. Can I just say what I think's interesting about this, and you're an historian, dates are important. I don't remember in the last 3 days at any point us being given any indication of the dates of these emails.
Well, I think they're
over
quite a long period.
They started in 2017.
Right, so
when Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary.
I just was sitting there thinking...
Just out of interest.
Coincidence.
This is interesting. I think we need to know the dates. But
Simon, do you not like Boris? Do you not want him to be leader? I'm getting that feeling.
We may come on to that in a second. You're preempting possibly another question.
Don't press
Lauren.
that button just yet.
No. Because it will go nuclear in a moment. Liz, we're going to go to a break before we get some more questions. 0345 6060 973. You're listening to LBC's Cross Question. It's 16 minutes past 8.
This is LBC.
Right now, you can choose tech worth up to £179 when you get BT Superfast Fibre. Play those summer tunes on a new Amazon Echo. Keep them to yourself with a pair of JBL 650 noise-cancelling headphones. Or get out and about with a Fitbit Charge 3. From $31.99 a month on an 18-month contract with a $29.99 setup fee. This offer ends the 11th of July. Search BT Broadband. BT. Be there.
New customers CPI increase each March starting 2020. 91% UK coverage, $44.49 for month 19 pay direct debit, terms apply.
So, Sean, you did that landscaping job last week, but you haven't been paid yet. Well, that's out of order. 8 hours pushing a lawnmower in perfectly straight lines. 2 days spent giving a tree a haircut. Why hang about? With QuickBooks, you can send invoices on the go and automatically keep track of what's been paid, or not, all in an instant. Doing accounts the old way? It's crazier than that paving.
QuickBooks. Backing you.
Visit quickbooks.co.uk to get started. A cat-scratching DJ deck for Tigger. You might not need a credit card to buy that, but for things you actually do need, think about the Think Money credit card. It'll keep you in control with text alerts. It comes with up to £1,500 credit limit, and their quick online eligibility check doesn't affect your credit score. Check for yourself at thinkmoney.co.uk. Think Money credit card. There when you need it. Think Money Limited is a credit broker. Capital One, the exclusive lender. Representative 39.9% APR variable.
When it comes to cruising, you don't want to feel like just another number. Thankfully, the new boutique cruise ships by Saga offer a more personal service.
Hello, Mr. Goodman.
Oh, hello. Giving you flexibility and freedom. What about off-roading on a volcano? A taste of Bordeaux's finest? Or fancy a bit of flamenco? Lovely. Well, thanks to the new Explorer Shore Concierge, no ask is too big. And the smaller ships dock closer to port, meaning more time ashore rather than getting ashore. It's a boutique cruise experience personal to you. Boutique Cruises by Saga, for your spirit of discovery.
Save up to 35% on our all-inclusive cruises. Search Spirit of Discovery to find out more. Over 50s only.
And now, before the next programme, a short poem written and read for you today by the celebrated poet Trevor Jones, simply called Life. Who knows what it really means?
Means. Beans. Oh, delicious Heinz beans on piping hot buttered toast. Now that's poetry.
Dreaming of the unique taste of Heinz beans with no added sugar makes it better.
Renewing your tax credits is too important to forget, so here's an unforgettable reminder.
Don't forget to renew your tax credits. It's very, very, very important.
Renew your tax credits by the 31st of July, or your payments will stop. Go to gov.uk/manage your tax credits today.
Leading Britain's conversation. Cross Question with Iain Dale. Tweet at LBC.
19 minutes past 8. Don't forget you can watch us live on our Facebook page, Twitter feed and on our website at lbc.co.uk. If you've just tuned in, our panellists on Cross Question this week: Telegraph columnist Simon Heffer, broadcaster Liz Kershaw, Member of the Youth Parliament Alex McGovern, and broadcaster and activist Lauren Booth. Right, let's go to the next question. You're going to like this one. Keith is in Henfield. Hello, Keith.
Good evening. What I'd like to know from the panel is if they were a member of the Conservative Party, which candidate would they vote for and why?
Right, let's go to Alex first. Alex, who would you vote for? Were you a member? I'm assuming you're not a member of the Conservative Party.
I'm not, no. I just want to precede this by saying that as a member of Youth Parliament, I'm meant to be apolitical and non-partisan. However,
doesn't really work on this programme.
No, I've noticed. I think one reason why I quite like Jeremy Hunt is the fact that he's quite honest, I see, or at least he seems to be honest. He says what he thinks. I mean, if you watched the Tory debate last night, I felt like Boris Johnson, his momentum, his passion was coming through. It was almost like he was blowing up a balloon. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then Jeremy Hunt would just come with a pin in a question and completely pop it, because you could see Boris Johnson would carry on going, but in the back of his mind he was thinking, uh-oh. And I think
we all do that, Alex.
Yeah, but I think Boris Johnson just doesn't say what he thinks. I think he wants to have his cake and eat it, as I said earlier. I think another reason why Hunt would be my guy is because I think that Boris has kind of been hiding away in his, multi-million-pound bombshell in London, waiting for the journalistic bombs of questioning to stop. And he knows that so long as he doesn't answer any questions or be too contentious, he'll win. Whereas I think Jeremy Hunt knows that he has to try to win votes, and that's why he's done more interviews, and we know a lot more about his personal views. Okay. I don't know what Boris stands for.
So, being completely impartial, you'd support Jeremy Hunt?
That's right, yes.
I added that for the benefit of the Speaker of the Youth Parliament, if such a person exists. Liz Kershaw.
Well, I'd vote for Boris Johnson for very different reasons, several reasons. First of all, I don't want a general election where we have to vote for either Jeremy or Jeremy, because being a...
What have you got against Jeremy's?
Well, it's, we want to mix it up a bit. That's the least serious of my reasons. Secondly, as a broadcaster, I don't want to have to say Jeremy Hunt, too often because so many of my colleagues have come a cropper.
Okay.
And
right. Have you got a serious reason?
Yeah, finally. I don't like what he did as Department of Culture, Media and Sport, Secretary of State. There's a lot I didn't like about what he did during his time as Health Secretary. But he raised something in his leaflets and his debate last night, and he actually put it in his summary. And I don't know why he's doing this. He said he was potentially the first Prime Minister, or the only Prime Minister, ever to have won a marginal seat. And first of all, I
think he said for the last 40 or 50 years, and he is correct in that.
Well, it was a marginal seat when he took it in 2005. He's now got a 22,000 majority.
And that's a good thing for him.
Yes, but he took it in 2005 by that 900-odd majority when the Liberal Democrats were on a high under Charles Kennedy and on the ascent.
So you're kind of arguing for Jeremy Hunt at the moment?
No, I'm saying I don't know why he's arguing that that's a good thing.
Well, because
he knows to win elections. He knows how to win elections.
Exactly.
No, because if you just let me finish, his biggest rivals. It's a marginal.
That's your first slapdown, Alex. There, by the way.
It's a marginal seat.
He's learned to interrupt there. That's brilliant.
Sorry, Liz.
It's a marginal seat because the closest opposition are Liberal Democrats, and they're now on the ascent. And they are the party of Remain currently. And if he actually does succeed in getting Brexit through in a Remain constituency anyway, as they voted in the 2016 election, then we could find ourselves where we've put a man into the position of Prime Minister, and then there's a general election shortly afterwards, and he loses his seat.
Hang on a minute. Boris Johnson's majority, I think, is about 5,000. So on your logic there, you should be supporting Jeremy Hunt.
No, because
in fact, you've spent the whole time arguing for Jeremy Hunt, even though you said you were supporting Boris Johnson. That's quite an achievement.
I don't want to vote for a man who's actually arguing that being in a marginal seat is a good thing.
Okay, Lauren Booth.
So first of all, I've got to take myself from my reality into something I'm completely divorced from, which is being a Tory voter.
Be used to that, though.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, crossing the cultural divide.
Exactly.
I like it. Very good. So let's cross that then. If I was a Tory voter right now, I'd be interested in, because it's such a yelly time in politics, because everybody's so aggressive. Would I go for the noisiest person who's going to suit me, who's going to give me tax cuts, who's going to get us out of Europe, who's going to be close to Donald Trump? Well, that's got to be Boris then.
Oh, so you're endorsing Boris?
No, because you said if you were a Tory voter, at no point in my universe should this man ever set foot anywhere down Downing Street. He's been there too much already.
Two
but
questions
in an alternative
that
reality,
you have something in common with Simon Heffer. I'm just about to sort of unleash the detonator now.
No, I'll just put it very simply. I'd vote for Jeremy Hunt because he's not Boris Johnson.
Come on, you can do a bit better than that.
Well, I mean, I'd vote for Donald Duck if he was standing because he's not Boris Johnson. I take Alex's point very seriously that young people are disgusted with the political class, and I feel that my generation has failed this country by producing a bunch of politicians who are either incompetent or dishonest or both in some cases. And I think it's vital for this country that pretty soon we get back to having people in positions of real political authority who are not only able to act, but can act with integrity, probity and honesty. Now, I'm not a member of the Tory party. I don't have a vote. Having seen that debate last night, I would say to myself, in casting my vote, I want to vote for somebody who's sat here and attempted to tell the truth, and for somebody who doesn't trivialise and make a frivolity out of a really important matter, which is becoming the Queen's First Minister and running this country. And the despicable and cowardly way that Boris Johnson has gone nowhere near serious media, other than a few patsy interviewers during this contest, until the ballot papers have gone out. His utter refusal to answer a question in a straight and honourable way, in the way that Jeremy Hunt did last night. These things are appalling in somebody who wants to run this country. He went to pieces almost towards the end of that interview. He was worried because he had no grasp of detail and didn't know what to say in answering a question.
I think that's a really, really good point. It's the grasp of detail.
Exactly.
It's the, I'm going to waffle until somebody feeds me a line.
Yes, and if he can't cope with, and Julie Etchingham is someone whom I have the highest regard. If he can't cope with Julie Etchingham asking him a question on behalf of the general public, what on earth is he going to do when he's confronted with serious questions in a fortnight's time when he is Prime Minister?
One thing I would say is in the hustings that I've chaired with them both, I've actually been quite surprised on some subjects, the detail that Boris Johnson has gone into
Ian,
on some things.
Yeah, as you know, how well are they briefed? It's hours and hours of working the same material, isn't it?
There was a question, I remember in Manchester, from a 16-year-old British Asian guy who asked him about, a very brave question to ask actually. He said, I'm clinically depressed, I have mental health problems, what are you going to do to improve mental health services? He actually gave a really good answer to that, which I was sitting there thinking, if I was answering this, how would I do it? And he was actually rather impressive.
Well, I asked myself about a fortnight ago, when there appeared to be on the verge of the Third World War in the Gulf, with the Americans and the Iranians having a punch-up, who would I want to be sitting in Downing Street if that goes off? And it certainly wouldn't be Boris Johnson, not in a million years.
Let's see what our caller thinks. Keith in Henfield, are you a Tory party member?
I am a Tory party member. I'm one of the mysterious 160,000. I first joined the Tory party in 1963, so I'm quite old as well.
Can you imagine if you'd had a vote in the 1963 leadership?
And subject to what I hear at hustings tomorrow evening, which I'm going to in the South East, I won't say where it is.
Unfortunately, I won't be chairing that one. You'll have Hannah Vaughan-Jones for that, Keith.
Oh, right.
Which is probably a relief.
One of the main reasons is there's a lot of what Simon Heffer's just said. I think it's all to do with integrity and giving straight answers to questions, which I think is sadly lacking in most of our politicians. I mean, Jeremy Hunt's pretty good like this. I like Nigel Farage in that respect. You always get a straight answer from him, and Jacob Rees-Mogg. But most of these others, you ask the question, they go all around the houses, and Boris is famous for doing that. I don't trust him, to be honest.
Yeah.
But frankly, it's a question of which is least worst.
Who would you have liked to be?
Generally.
Who would you have liked to be the new leader?
I'd have liked Dominic Raab, perhaps, I think, but of all the original candidates. But I want to get a candidate in there who actually starts to listen to his constituents. I mean, I'm in a very safe Tory seat in Arundel and South Downs, but with an MP who won't even discuss the EU with his constituents. All he's interested in is same-sex marriage bills. Which is nothing wrong with that.
I think that's a rather unfair thing to say about Nick Herbert. He's interested in a lot of things beyond that subject.
On numerous occasions, we had a meeting locally to discuss the EU, and he refused to attend.
Well, we'll leave that one there. I shall pass on your regards to him next time I see him, Keith. Alex, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I think on Simon's point, I think the issue with Boris Johnson and why he's not taking these media interviews is because he knows what he's saying is fundamentally just flawed. I mean, if you look at his plan B, as it were, if he can't get a deal with the EU...
It's a bit like Jeremy Corbyn, then.
Well, maybe. Yeah. GATT24, I just can't see that working at all. I think he knows that as well. I just think he's trying to sound, he's done his research.
When you say that he's avoiding all media interviews, he's going to be interviewed for half an hour by Andrew Neil on Friday, which I suspect
after
is not
all the ballot papers have gone back.
Well, that may be, but...
So what's the point?
Well, you could say, what's the point of doing anything after the ballot papers have been
I
sent
think that's
out,
right. And he's very carefully avoided doing anything.
He knows what he's doing.
Can I just add, I think he breaks the mould in the same way that Nigel Farage has been mentioned. He broke the mould. It's not what the London political and media bubble expect, and to some extent I think that's why they feel uncomfortable with. Whereas if you go out,
how is Boris Johnson not part of the London political media bubble?
It doesn't conform to the stereotype that's people know and are comfortable with. I think I think that there are a lot of people out there who quite like his manner.
Do you know what? I think that's really interesting. No, I think, Liz, you've got your finger on your pulse there, because what we haven't addressed here is who is voting for Boris then, and what are their views? And it seems to be, and I'd love to hear you, Ian, on more about the hustings. Is we've had people being sensible and saying, okay, Jeremy Hunt and this and that, but actually we're in this other world, this nether region of let's just break the mould, let's get the person with the loudest voice, let's get the jolly bother boys involved in politics because they're a bit of a laugh. It's not a good quality in leadership.
Yeah, personality is not going to help us get through this crisis. Being loud with a loud voice and having optimism, peddling optimism, as Jeremy Hunt described it, that's not going to help. It's realism and pragmatism.
Wasn't his finest moment in that debate,
no,
was it?
It wasn't really. But I think optimism is one thing, but it's got to be founded optimism. It can't just be optimism for the sake of it and saying, we might as well be happy. We need to be realistic and pragmatic. The EU has been so ingrained in our society for so many years, and we need to realise that this is not just we'll smile through it and it'll be fine. There has to be real planning going on, and I don't think Boris will do that.
Simon and I are old enough to remember when it wasn't ingrained in our public life, but enough of that. We'll
Bring
take
back
more,
the magic circle.
We'll take more of your questions in just a moment. 0345 6060 973. And Lauren Booth and I have something in common, which we'll allow her to talk about in just a minute as well. It's 8:32. Josh Coop has the news headlines.
There's been an angry reaction from government ministers following the resignation of the UK's ambassador to the US. Sir Kim Darroch said his job had become impossible after leaked memos showed he'd described the Trump administration as inept. Downing Street's confirmed initial discussions have now taken place with the police about the source of the leak. A 22-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of trespass following a security breach at Buckingham Palace. He's understood to have climbed over the front gates outside the building early this morning. Police say it's not believed to be terror-related. And flights to and from Gatwick Airport are being disrupted following a technical problem that closed the runway for nearly 2 hours. It is now back open after an issue at air traffic control earlier, but delays are expected to continue until later tonight. LBC weather, rain moving across central and northern areas of England into Scotland tonight, dry and clear across the south. Tomorrow, a mix of sunshine and showers for much of the UK and a high of 24 degrees.
This is LBC. Sheila Fogarty, Monday to Friday from 1 p.m.
I think the opposite, Colin. I think it will mobilise both sides enormously.
Well, I don't think.
And will you vote?
I don't know. It depends on how you.
I can't imagine why you wouldn't if you're this passionate about your position.
I know what's going to happen. There'll be 3 questions, and I'll lower the voting age to 16.
What if there are 2 questions and it's the same age of voting? Will you vote? I can't imagine.
I already voted.
Sheila Fogarty.
With Blink Home security cameras, helping give your family peace of mind.
LBC.
London, we have a problem. Our air is toxic, and driving polluting vehicles is the main cause. The air that I breathe, that my friends breathe, that my mum and dad breathe, and that you breathe, can cause lifelong diseases. But there are solutions, like making our transport greener and creating better spaces to walk and cycle.
These are just some of the ways the Mayor of London and TfL are helping to improve air quality across the capital. Find out how you can make a difference too. Search Let London Breathe. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Have you ever bought an investment sold by Barclays, Halifax, Lloyds, Santander or any other bank or financial advisor? Investments like stocks and shares ISAs, investment bonds and certain types of pension can be risky. If you lost money with one of these investments, you could be owed thousands of pounds in compensation. Even if you no longer have the investment or the paperwork, here at Goodwin Barrett we can still help. To start your free assessment with Goodwin Barrett, text SOLD to 66777. That's SOLD to 66777.
This year we will sell our 250,000th boiler for free, and you could be that lucky winner. Visit swellheating.com. Rely on us to keep you warm.
I'm James O'Brien, and I'm delighted to invite you to join me for my new podcast, Full Disclosure. This week, I'm talking to Paloma Faith.
Left-wing parties preach to the converted and they never break through. I thought it would be really good to use this platform. It's difficult to stand in front of a room of people who don't agree with you.
Listen and subscribe now on the LBC app or Global Player.
At Lidl, we're big on school uniforms. A sweatshirt for £1 to 100% cotton polo shirts for £1.75 and skirts or trousers for £1.75. Big on the whole uniform for £4.50. Available from Thursday the 11th of July. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores, excludes NI.
Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC.
25 to 9 here on LBC. You're listening to Cross Question. Let me reintroduce our panel to you. Simon Heffer is a Telegraph columnist. Liz Kershaw, broadcaster. Alex McGovern, member of the Youth Parliament. Lauren Booth, broadcaster and activist, and fellow participant in the Edinburgh Fringe this year.
It's my first, and I know
And
you're.
it's mine.
Is it really?
It really is,
I thought you would have been there a long time. Well, it's great.
So what's your show about?
So my show is called Accidentally Muslim, and it tracks 40 years of political political moments in history, which I've, just been observing from a distance, whether it's my father, who was the actor Anthony Booth, and his rabble-rousing, the Tories, I'll tell you about the Tories, whether it's being there on the night that Blair was elected with the family. Nothing indiscreet, but just, being at those moments, whether it's breaking the siege of Gaza on a boat and taking that risk and the politics of that, and then also accepting Islam later in life and the changes that made. So it's a kind of potted history of the moment.
And where's it on?
It's on at the Gilded Balloon, Teviot, the billiard room.
Yeah, that's where I'm on too.
I know, isn't it brilliant?
What time of day?
12 till 1 every day during August. There's nothing like it at the Fringe.
Well, I shall come and see you one day, as long as you come and see one of my shows,
Deal.
which are at 4.
Okay.
Anyway, enough of the plugs. Anybody else going to the Edinburgh Festival? No. Fine. Let's move on to the next question. Anthony's in Staines. What's your question, Anthony? Good evening.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
It's a simple one. Good evening. If Bojo makes it into number 10 and falls out with the Donald, what happens to Britain?
Oh, my goodness. So if Boris Johnson gets into number 10 and falls out with President Trump, what happens to Britain? Lauren?
I think what you're saying is Boris's only bonus is that he is a suck-up to Donald Trump, and that's his one selling point. Is that what you're saying? Because...
Well, yes, but it's a very fragile, isn't it, friendship? Because you think of everyone who's fallen out with Donald Trump, everyone from Omarosa, Rex Tillerson, the list goes on, doesn't it? I mean, it just goes on and on.
Well, the thing is, when you've got two massive male egos like that, both fragile and both slightly broken and both a risk to womankind, allegedly, then you're bound to have moments where they're going to fall out and things are going to be said, and, oh, did you mean that? I didn't mean it. And then it's tweeting, and then it will be nonsense and it will be ridiculous. Let's be sure about that.
See, Alex, I wonder whether Donald Trump is aware of the things that Boris Johnson has said about Mr. Trump back in 2016, because they were fairly disobliging.
I don't quite know, to be honest. I think every time someone criticises Donald Trump, he always says, I don't know this person. I think the question is very interesting, and I think we're seeing quite a wave of populism and nationalism across the world, really. I think that would be quite a risk if Trump fell out with Boris so early on. I mean, if we look at what happened with the USA and Iran, or with North Korea, although that did mend itself, it just goes from chaos after chaos after chaos.
Well, does it though? Isn't that being unfair? Because I would submit that if Donald Trump hadn't been president of the United States, none of these meetings with Kim Jong-un would be happening.
Exactly.
And I think you have to pay a little bit of credit to him for that.
I think that's true. I think Donald Trump got quite lucky with that, and he managed to repair what happened and make amends and to their relationship. So yeah, he should get credit for that.
Okay, all right, Liz.
Well, I think Donald Trump has more of an overview of Britain than one man, and it is very childlike.
He is
in that
half British, we should
remember.
remember.
His mother was Scottish, and he's totally enthralled by the bling and the glitz and the pageantry of his visit to Britain and the Buckingham Palace state dinner. And he said in his tweet the other night he liked the Queen best. I don't think if Boris Johnson didn't win, if Jeremy Hunt was our next Prime Minister, I think the relationship between Britain and America is very crucial for security and our economics and many other reasons. But I think it's more than whether two guys with blonde hair can go pumping the air together. But I do think that it brings me on briefly to my counter-conspiracy theory. And just imagine that it's not somebody who supports leaving the EU that's leaked this missive, or all of them. Supposing it's somebody who wishes us to remain in the EU, and they think by doing this, then they do cause Donald Trump to turn on us, and therefore we have to go running back into the arms of Brussels to save our souls, because we're never going to get a trade deal.
It's a point of view. Simon Heffer, what about the fact that British Prime Ministers are always accused of being poodles of the American president? Now, I always think that's completely overblown. You think of Thatcher and Reagan, she stood up to him plenty of times, and there are plenty of other examples over the years as well.
Kennedy.
Indeed. Now, what do you think this relationship is going to be like?
Well, judging from the performance last night, Johnson is so far up Donald Trump's fundament he can see the back of his teeth. So I think it's pretty unlikely that they're going to fall out. I think also Johnson is aware that if he survives as Prime Minister until the 31st of October, and that's a big if, that he is going to need America very seriously for trading relationships, and so he should. And as Liz says, and I entirely agree with her, we have a very important security relationship with America, not least because we have chosen to run down our own armed forces to the point where they're virtually non-existent. And we know we're only making our 2% contribution to NATO by including the money we're paying in pensions to 93-year-old ex-servicemen. So we've got a real problem if we fall out with America. But one thing I would not accuse Johnson of, because of his toadying to Trump, is that he's going to fall out with him. I think he's going to have to work very hard indeed, even by his appalling standards, to upset Donald Trump.
Okay, Anthony, quick response from you?
Yes, thank you for some very interesting responses. I think what Boris needs to do is suck up on the Hershey Kisses. Take plenty of those over to Washington. That will satisfy Trump.
Right, okay, Anthony, thank you. Let's go to another question. Ian's in Huntingdon. Ian, what would you like to say?
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm getting increasingly horrified by the Labour Party's anti-Semitism, racism. I mean, seeing the latest news about John Lansman now attacking the whistleblowers, saying they have no credibility on the subject but have a clear political agenda against the dear leader, Jeremy Corbyn. I'm Jewish, or not particularly religious, but I'm now genuinely feeling deeply concerned that the Labour Party is racist in parts, but is genuinely institutionally racist. If you took
what's your question, Ian? Because we're going to run out of time.
The question is, what can or should the Labour Party do to show to the Jewish community and to the wider British public that they're not a racist organisation? Because they seem to be doing the exact opposite.
All right, Liz Kershaw.
I don't understand this. Not that I don't understand the question. I really don't understand about anti-Semitism, particularly in the Labour Party. I was brought up in a Labour Party and trade union family. My mother was a councillor for 50 years. We had meetings constantly at our house when I was growing up. And we had people there like, you'll remember the names, Gerald Kaufman, and later on Louise Ellman, Joel Barnett. It never occurred to me that they were, I didn't think of it that, they're Jewish or anything. They were just there, and they were so fundamental to the Labour Party in the northwest of England. So I don't actually understand where all this has come from. We discussed it at length last night at home.
Well, there's always been a strand of really hard extreme left thinking that has embraced anti-Semitism.
But I wasn't aware of that until all this happened. I understand, and I sympathise with the people of Gaza, and I don't like everything the State of Israel does. But I don't. You wouldn't extrapolate that to hating Jews. I just don't get it, and I don't understand how it's got a grip on the Labour Party.
And is that part of the problem, Simon? In that is the fundamental issue here, that people are conflating anti-Semitism with the criticism of the State of Israel.
Yes, I think that's right, and. I think the problem is that there are people on the hard left of the Labour Party who regard Israel as a proxy for America, and they hate America. And I think it began with Israel being a proxy, and I think now some people actually positively enjoy it. I mean, I can't think of any more revolting thing I've seen in politics in the last year than Luciana Berger having to have an armed guard, or whatever it was, or a bodyguard, at the Labour Party conference last year, because there were people in there who wanted to attack her for no other reason than she happened to be a Jewish woman. And that's abominable. And it's appalling for this country that if we do have a general election at the moment, we're going to face a choice between Coco the clown's degenerate younger brother and a man who wants to reopen Auschwitz. I mean, this is just terrible.
No,
wow.
I can't let you get away with that. You cannot say that.
You can't say that.
But I mean, why has he turned a blind eye to all these rabid anti-Semites in his house?
Hang on,
You cannot say that the leader of the Labour Party, whatever you think of him, would intend to do that. That really is.
I'm sure in 1933 they had similar conversations in Germany. And
Okay.
The Führer's never going to do that.
Before you do, Lauren, because I know you've got lots of... can I just ask a question? This anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, is it among the 500,000 or so people, who, you know, a lot of them recent members, Momentum, the far left? Because I can't see it among northern working class.
No,
I can't see it happening.
A lot of it comes from people who have come into the Labour Party having been banned from the Labour Party for a long time. Lauren, we've got to go to a break, but I'm going to let you have your say as soon as the break is over, and indeed Alex as well. It's 8:46.
Eddie Mair, Monday to Friday from 4 p.m.
On reflection, would you want to rephrase anything you said in your speech?
Most emphatically not. Slavery wasn't the only analogy I used.
Why did you use it at all?
No, let me finish.
Is any of it accurate?
Well, I don't think it's accurate, but, you know, I actually believe in free speech.
Your remarks on slavery have caused offence, and I wonder whether you regret that.
No.
Eddie Mair, Monday to Friday from 4 p.m. LBC.
Many people struggle with loose and missing teeth. Often their dentist has told them nothing can be done. Let the TDC team restore your teeth, your smile and your confidence with our award-winning Smile in a Day dental implant treatment. Book your free consultation today. Visit smileinaday.co.uk.
Lizzie, floral designer at Zing Flowers.
One of my favourite bouquets is the Pink Sensation. It's got some of the nation's favourite stems in it, including rose and lily. It's a really nice sized bouquet when it arrives.
Beautiful florist-selected stems in stunning hand-tied bouquets.
Zingflowers.com. Amazing every time.
Switch to BT Business Broadband today and get connected tomorrow. Our most reliable broadband connection yet is backed by our 4G network, and now comes with a fixed price guarantee, which means your connection won't go down and our prices won't go up. Whatever your business, go online and search BT Business Broadband to find out more. BT, be there. Subject to availability. Fixed price guarantee for your contract duration. T's and C's apply.
When it comes to cruising, you don't want to feel like just another number. Thankfully, the new smaller boutique ships from Saga offer a more personal service. There's a door-to-door chauffeur to take you to and from the ship. Bon voyage, Mr. Goodman. Cheers. Every cabin has a balcony with a sea view. Beautiful. Dine at one of the intimate speciality restaurants. Delicious. And each ship has a whole host of venues to match your mood. And guess what? I'm in the mood for dancing. It's a boutique cruise experience personal to you. Boutique Cruises by Saga for your spirit of discovery.
Save up to 35% on our all-inclusive cruises. Search Spirit of Discovery to find out more. Over 50s only.
Looking good comes at a cost. But with the Renault Clio 75 TCE from Renault Retail Group, looking great comes at just £179 a month with no deposit and 0% APR. Find your nearest dealer at renaultretail.co.uk. Renault Finance, 48 months. Optional final payment 4462. Conditions apply.
A cat-scratching DJ deck for Tigger. You might not need a credit card to buy that, but for things you actually do need, think about the Think Money credit card. It'll keep you in control with text alerts. It comes with up to £1,500 credit limit, and their quick online eligibility check doesn't affect your credit score. Check for yourself at thinkmoney.co.uk. Think Money credit card. There when you need it. Think Money Limited is a credit broker. Capital One, the exclusive lender. Representative 39.9% APR variable.
The M&S sale is now on with up to 50% off selected clothing, home and beauty. In selected stores and online while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Cross Question with Iain Dale on LBC.
It's 10 to 9 here on LBC. Simon Heffer, Liz Kershaw, Alex McGovern, Lauren Booth with us. And we're talking about anti-Semitism after the question from Ian in Huntingdon. Lauren, you will have something to say on this.
Yeah, I was just really interested in this question of Jeremy Hunt suddenly going from anti-racist campaigner for 40 years, along
Jeremy
with
Corbyn, I think.
Jeremy Corbyn, yeah, sorry, Jeremy Corbyn.
I told you it'd become confusing.
Yeah, see, he's a dangerous name. That one, you got to stay away from that. Jeremy Corbyn being an anti-racist campaigner for his whole career, established, respected, to suddenly turning overnight into a racist with a racist party. This is never been the history of the Labour Party. It's not true of its heart. I do not believe it. I've never met those people who have spoken in this way. And I'd like to say, name me one thing that Jeremy Corbyn has actually said that could bring violence, which is anti-Semitism, onto people purely because they pray to their way and their way of faith. Now, what is an issue is that our next Prime Minister is about to be a man who routinely raises Islam as a danger for Britain, as a hated culture, a cult of death.
Give me an example of where he's done that.
In his writings from, I pulled him up on it about 10 years ago. He was writing in the New Statesman, and has described women in niqab as letterboxes, which led to a spate of attacks on a very, very minority within a minority. He's about to be Prime Minister. I think we really need to be focusing on these big issues which affect a wide group of people.
So you're saying move along, nothing to see?
No, I'm saying that it's very interesting that the media is trying to turn an anti-racist.
It's nothing to do with the media. There are hundreds of examples. Why hasn't Jeremy Corbyn got to grips with it? That's the question.
Yeah, okay, I take that on board. What I'm raising here is what Liz quite rightly said, is this conflation of questioning the situation in Palestine for 1.8 million people in Gaza, several million people in the West Bank, to hating Jews and wishing violence on them. That is a deliberate political conflation, not anti-Semitism.
Alex?
I don't really buy that argument, to be honest. I think there have been so many individual cases of discussion of anti-Semitism. I mean, tonight there's that BBC Panorama documentary about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and I think there's no smoke without fire here. I think the issue was Jeremy Corbyn didn't want to take this issue into the public and be open and honest about it because he thought it might cost him an election. So he didn't be honest about he wasn't honest about it, and it cost him the EU elections, really. I think
there were many other things that contributed to that. But,
I think that Labour's been quite hypocritical about this point. They previously vowed to end the use of non-disclosure agreements to protect whistleblowers, and yet now here they are sending out legal documents through the media law firm Carter Ruck just to remind people that of their confidentiality agreements. Shadow Cabinet Minister Barry Gardiner said that the party doesn't use gagging orders to hide anything that's illegal or improper. I don't think that's true at all. I think I read today from the BBC that anti-Semitic claims were taken to the leader's office at Jeremy Corbyn's request to be dealt with by his aides. This needs to be independent judicial review because, of course, Corbyn is not going to be honest about it if he thinks that could cost him an election and lose members. So I think that you've got to be independent about this and deal with this and nip the bud.
Lauren, what's your reaction to the Equalities and Human Rights Commission launching an inquiry? That's not got up by the media. They must think there's something to investigate.
They must think there's something to investigate, but again, I'd like to see the same approach taken to Islamophobia.
Whataboutery. We're not talking about that. If we had a question on that, I'd ask you it. We're talking about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, and yet you keep trying to deflect it.
No,
you haven't actually said that you acknowledge that there is a problem yet.
I have never met any member of the Labour Party who has shown any anti-Semitism.
That's what Ken Livingstone says.
Why would people lie about it and say this stuff to the press and the media? Why would they say that, Labour members?
It just does not make sense to me as a Labour voter and someone who has...
You're calling Luciana Berger a liar?
No. What I'm saying is, are they picking up on points to do with political policy rather than actual anti-Jewish hatred, which was the original understanding of anti-Semitism?
Well,
and I think being forced to accept a wider definition, which makes it, a criminal, socially criminal offence, at least, to talk about Israel in a negative context when we can talk about all other countries. I think that's an issue.
Why would you pick on a female pregnant MP in Liverpool? Because of what's going on because of your political perception of what's going on at the end of the Mediterranean? Why would you issue her with threats? Death threats, personal abuse. I don't think one can excuse the other.
Also, is everybody in the Labour Party who is worried about this imagining something?
No.
You had two Jewish peers, and another peer leaving yesterday over anti-Semitism in the party, and I've had two conversations with close Jewish friends of mine in the last year, both of whom have said, without any provocation from me, if we get a Labour government in this country, we're going to move abroad because we won't feel safe. Given now, I mean that is a terrible impression for the Labour Party and for Corbyn, particularly as leader of the Labour Party, to have created.
What do you want? Just a question. What do you want him to do? What is the answer then? No. What is the answer? What has he not done?
You don't expel people from the Labour Party who are, quite obviously anti-Semitic and then readmit them. That's just ludicrous. I mean, he is not master in his own house. We know he's run by people, in his close circle who clearly are rampantly anti-Semitic. I don't know how anti-Semitic Corbyn is.
Rampantly anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Such as who and such as what?
Well, no, we're not getting into that.
Where do you think this comes from, though? People, I could not believe that people are making this kind of thing up.
But we have to pick up on those kind of phrases. Rampantly anti-Semitic in his direct. So I'm
not going to give names because we don't want to get writs. But it is absolutely clear that this is not a figment of people's imagination in the Labour Party. It's not. I mean, Luciana Berger obviously didn't leave the Labour Party because she imagined that she was being the victim of some sort of pogrom that was going on.
But what kind of comments are you talking about that are rampantly anti-Semitic in Jeremy's director?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, just look at her Twitter feed because you just have to look at the comments that come. Now, they're not all from Labour Party members, but
they're not all from Labour Party members.
Some of them were.
Corbyn could have closed this down. Corbyn could have said, we are going to ruthlessly expel anybody who engages in this form of prejudice or any other form of prejudice.
Right.
I entirely agree with you on that.
Let's lighten the mood for the last question because we've only got a couple of minutes to go, so I'm going to ask you for some relatively brief answers. This is from Eileen in Kilmarnock. Who would you appoint as ambassador to the United States? You can be as imaginative as you like. Simon.
Jeremy Hunt.
Jeremy Hunt. That would be a bit of a demotion for him, wouldn't it?
Well, if he doesn't win, and he probably won't, he's a former foreign secretary. There's a lot of examples of former foreign secretaries, Lord Halifax most famously, becoming ambassador to the United States. It would show that we take America extremely seriously. The man of Mr.
Boris
Hunt's.
thinks he's Churchill, so of course there are parallels to be drawn between
then he could be Lord Halifax. I would bet, though, that whoever is sent as ambassador will last longer than the next Prime Minister is going to last.
Liz Kershaw.
Oh, it's tricky. I'd need long to think about it, but somebody dashing, charming.
Simon Heffer?
I'm available.
Simon's very busy with writing a book. I think, how about Colin Firth or Hugh Grant?
Oh dear, how shallow can you get?
You asked us to be amusing.
Alex.
I was being serious.
I think Roy Stewart would be quite a good ambassador. I think his polite realism would certainly appeal to Trump, and I don't think he'd cause too many contentious issues.
Do you know, I can think of no one less likely to get on with Donald Trump than Rory Stewart, but it's an interesting suggestion.
Here's
Lauren.
one, Diane Abbott. I can only think that Donald Trump would actually have a nervous breakdown and be pushed over the edge by a woman of colour, taking missives to him and telling him like it is. So I'd like to see Diane Abbott.
I've got an even better suggestion.
Go on.
Well, you've had time to think about it.
That's true, but it has actually only just come into my mind.
Go on then.
Sadiq Khan.
Yes, perfect.
Oh, I don't know.
Can you imagine it? I don't think actually Donald Trump would accept his credentials. Isn't that the right word? When the ambassador presents his credentials to the relevant country.
Well, I just hope Mrs May gets on with it and does it tomorrow.
Now she could be. How about her?
New job.
Well, she could appoint herself, I suppose.
Well, we come up with all sorts of suggestions there. Well, Simon, Liz, Alex, Lauren, thank you very much indeed. Don't forget to go and see Lauren, and indeed me, at the Edinburgh Festival from July the 31st. Right, coming up in the next hour. Yesterday, the Commons voted to impose equal marriage and legal abortion on Northern Ireland if power sharing isn't restored before the 21st of October. Shouldn't the whole of the United Kingdom have the same laws on abortion and marriage? Give me your calls, 0345 6060 973. You're listening to LBC, it's 9 o'clock.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain.